Good evening, and welcome back to the channel. If you value clear reporting that goes beyond the sound bites and helps you truly understand what is happening in Washington and on the streets of America, make sure you subscribe right now so you do not miss any of our in-depth coverage.
Mr. President.
The senator from Connecticut.
Thank you, Mr. President. The American people can be forgiven for wanting to turn off their computers or TVs and feeling a sense of abhorrence and repulsion at what they are seeing again and again and again as the video of Renee Good's killing is replayed for them. What it shows is a horrific tragedy. A mother, 37 years old, an American citizen, subject to alleged murder. I use the word alleged because I have spent most of my career in law enforcement. And the word alleged before a conviction is always mandatory, but what's on that tape is there for everyone to see. The absolutely needless, reckless use of excessive force and firearms without any apparent need for self-defense. We are seeing a surge of violence in this country that is not only from private individuals, but now from supposed law enforcement, ICE, which has responsibility to uphold the law and respect norms that protect everyday citizens. We're a country built on due process and the rule of law. And we were founded on the idea that we resist tyrannical monarchs, that we fought a war, in fact, against a tyranny that used totalitarian, Gestapo-type tactics. And now we see them on the streets of our own country. Yes, Americans have a right to be repulsed by these videos and outraged, angry, but also saddened and grief-stricken because the killing of Renee Nicole Good last week at the hands of an ICE agent showed the tragic outcome of abuse of power. This death was preventable and predictable. It was preventable. It needn't have happened. But it was also predictable because it is only an example of the rising tide of lawlessness and recklessness on the part of ICE that has been documented. In fact, by my report, the investigation we did as ranking member of the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigation, and the report that was the result of that investigation, we released it several weeks ago, and I ask that this report be entered into the record of this committee if there's no objection.
Without objection.
I released this report, which documents firsthand accounts of 22 United States citizens in 10 different states who were physically assaulted, pepper sprayed, denied medical treatment, detained, sometimes for days, by federal immigration agents. And we did a hearing with a number of those American citizens who were injured, denied medical care, prevented from contacting their families or lawyers, some of them for days on end while detained under very harsh conditions. And it was graphic, it was gripping, but it was only 4 or 5 examples of 22 individuals we interviewed who themselves were only a subset of hundreds of American citizens who were physically assaulted, detained, and many of them injured. This pattern and practice is not coincidental. It is the result of a policy, an apparent policy on the part of this government agency that involves agents who are masked, unidentifiable, turned violent without provocation, crashing their government vehicles into citizens' cars, dragging them from those cars, slamming them to the ground, violently assaulting them, often leading to lasting injuries, including trauma. One of the individuals who appeared at our hearing was a veteran who served and sacrificed for this country in the belief that he was helping to preserve the very liberties that he was denied when he was arrested. Now, every one of these people sought to tell the agents that they were an American citizen. They offered their passports or their driver's license or other identification to show they were American citizens. There was no reason to assault them in this way. In California, they beat a 79-year-old man so badly that they broke his ribs, and they slammed another man's head into the ground so hard that he was concussed. In Illinois, a woman was shot 5 times, while in Indiana, a man was punched in the face and dragged outside his family home in the early morning hours. It didn't matter whether children were present. Agents acted with reckless disregard for their safety and well-being. In Idaho, children were taken from a car at gunpoint and later zip-tied. In Massachusetts, an autistic child was deliberately taken from her parents and used as bait by law enforcement to try to lure their parents out of the house. These detentions were not limited to one state or a few states. They spanned the nation from Idaho to Alabama, from California to Illinois. And we know there are so many stories that haven't been told because people fear retaliation and retribution. American citizens fearing their own government retaliating against them for speaking truth to power about physical assaults by their own government. These ICE agents have been trained and they've been recruited by the Department of Homeland Security, which is complicit in this misconduct. Complicit because it has failed to provide the right training and perhaps has recruited people who are wrongly in these roles, and has failed to either provide protocols or to enforce them. What became clear through our interviews and across the stories that keep emerging is that the Department of Homeland Security does not have just a
Tonight, we turn to a moment on the Senate floor that has struck a nerve across the country. The senator from Connecticut stood before his colleagues and delivered a deeply emotional warning about what many Americans are seeing unfold again and again on their screens. He spoke not as a politician seeking attention, but as a former law enforcement professional, weighing his words carefully, especially when discussing a killing that has shocked the nation. At the center of this moment is Renee Nicole Good, a 37-year-old American citizen, a mother, whose killing was captured on video and repeatedly replayed across news outlets and social media. The senator emphasized a crucial legal point that often gets lost in public outrage. The word alleged still applies before a conviction, but he also made clear that the video itself shows something deeply troubling, a use of force that appears needless, reckless, and far beyond any reasonable claim of self-defense. If you want reporting that breaks down these moments with clarity and responsibility, subscribe to the channel and stay informed. What makes this case resonate so strongly is not just the tragedy of one life lost, but what it suggests about a broader pattern. The senator argued that Americans are not wrong to feel repulsed or overwhelmed, not only because of violence committed by private individuals, but because this violence is now being associated with an agency that is supposed to enforce the law, not terrorize communities. ICE agents, like all law enforcement officers, are entrusted with extraordinary power that must be balanced by restraint, accountability, and respect for due process. The senator reminded the chamber of something fundamental to American identity. This country was built on resistance to tyranny. It was founded in opposition to unchecked power, to authorities who acted without accountability. When he referenced totalitarian tactics and historical abuses, the point was not rhetorical excess, but a warning. When law enforcement begins to operate without transparency or consequence, the damage is not only to victims, but to the rule of law itself. If this kind of analysis matters to you, take a moment to subscribe so you can keep learning alongside us. He went further, calling Renee Good's death not only tragic, but preventable. That word matters. Preventable means there were choices made, policies followed or ignored, training applied or neglected. Predictable means this was not an isolated incident, but one that fits into a documented pattern of conduct. According to the senator, investigations conducted by the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations have already raised alarms about rising recklessness within ICE, suggesting this tragedy did not come out of nowhere. This is where viewers can learn something critical. Oversight exists for a reason. Congressional investigations are not just political fodder, they are mechanisms designed to expose systemic failures before lives are lost. When warnings go unheeded, when reports sit on shelves without reform, the consequences can be fatal. That is the deeper lesson behind this Senate speech, and it is why accountability matters long before a headline forces the issue. As this story continues to develop, the questions are no longer just about one agent or one incident. They are about how power is exercised, how agencies are monitored, and whether the systems meant to protect both citizens and officers are functioning as they should. These are not abstract debates. They are real issues that shape real lives and real communities. If you want continued coverage that explains these issues clearly, responsibly, and with humanity, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We will keep breaking down what this means, what comes next, and why it matters to all of us.